Okay, so we are on, we are talking about reasons why leaders and people try to dim your light. So, in the dream, I was in a church setting, there was a leader there. So, we're talking about leaders in the church because God did say judgment will start at the front of the church. So, let's talk about the leaders in the church. Let's stay on that momentum. So the third one is fear of change. Leaders can operate in a way to try to dim others' light because they resistant to change. Leaders who are comfortable with the status quo may resist new ideas or approaches. When someone brings fresh perspectives or innovations, it can be seen as a threat to the established order. Another one is fear of losing control. Change can be unsettling, and some leaders may fear losing control if others' light shine too brightly. This fear can lead to attempts to suppress new initiatives or talents. Um, we see many people in the Bible experience losing control or experience fear, which is a natural human emotion. Um, and I will talk about a few. One person is Moses. Moses was initially fearful when God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. And he doubted his ability to speak effectively and express concerns about how the people would respond to him. Um, and you can read about that in Exodus 3 and 4. But in you can read about that in Exodus 3 and 4. When Moses failed, when Moses doubted, God reassured Moses and provided him with Aaron as a spokesperson, helping him overcome his fears. Gideon, let's talk about Gideon. Gideon was hesitant and fearful when God called him to deliver Israel from the Midianites. Midianites. He doubted his own strength and asked for signs to confirm God's calling. We see that we can read about that in Judges 6 through 7. Despite the initial fear, Gideon ultimately trusted God's plan and led Israel to victory. Another person is Jonah. Anyways, Nineveh. So Jonah's fear of change and reluctancy to follow God's command is evident in the attempt to flee from God's call to go to Nineveh. He was afraid of the task and the potential consequences of preaching to the people of Nineveh. We go to Jonah 1, we see that. We can read about that in Jonah 1. Um, Eventually, Jonah overcame his fear and fulfilled his mission after being swallowed and released by a great fish. The Israelites. The Israelites themselves often feared change, especially during their journey from Egypt from the to the promised land, which they didn't make it. They frequently expressed their fear and longing for the familiar life they had in Egypt, despite the hardships of slavery. You can go read about that in Numbers 14. Their fear of the unknown and reluctance to Christ and God's provision led to many challenges along the way. So many people have experienced that too. Just God have taken you out of this slavery territory, the slavery mindset, but you was in it for so long, so it's like I want to go back to what's familiar, even though it's not good for me. A lot of people experience that. Um, but by the grace of God, He can, He will help us to come over that. Um, but we have to want it. So Peter, the fifth person, Peter experienced fear of change when Jesus called him to walk on water. Initially, Peter stepped out the boat and walked toward Jesus, but he soon became afraid and began to sink. Matthew 14, it talks about this. Jesus rushed out and saved him, teaches Peter a lesson about faith and trust in the face of fear. See, God don't put no more on us than we can bear. People put stuff on us that we can't bear, but God, He already be knowing the plan. Like, He don't give us a task and then leave us leave us by ourselves with doing what He has given us to do. He be right there with us. I would never leave you nor forsake you. Um, He's right by our side. Elijah, after a great victory against the prophets of Baal, Elijah was threatened by Queen Jezebel and fled in fear of his life. He felt overwhelmed and lost control, even asking God to take his life. You can go to 1 Kings 19 and read about this. These examples shows how even the greatest leaders, oh Jesus, the greatest leaders and prophets experienced fear of change. However, they were able to overcome their fears by trusting in God's guidance and strength. Fear of change in ministry is a common and understandable concern as it involves uncertainty, potential disruption, and the need to adapt. Um, so now I will give you a few perspectives that the Bible have, which is general principles that might help to address the fear. Trusting God's plan. God God calls us to step into the unknown and make significant changes. Abraham was called to leave his homeland and go to a place God showed him. And this is Genesis 12. Trusting in God's plan and his guidance can help alleviate fear of change. Embrace growth and renewal. Um, Change brings opportunities. Well, I'm not gonna say always, but it often bring opportunities for growth and renewal. Ecclesiastes 3:1, it says there is a time for everything and a season for everything and every activity under the heavens. Embracing change can lead to new beginnings and fruitful ministry. And a fruitful ministry. Seek strength and courage. In Joshua 1, God encourages Joshua with these words: be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Facing change with strength and courage, knowing that God is with you, can provide assurance. Y'all, um, as I am going through this, um, creating these little points, subsections, it really helps me. It helps me. Um, and last year I got so off track, and it's been like 2 years. I've been so off track, and um, with what I used to do, prayer, intercession, and um, the intimacy that I would have with the Lord, the time with the Lord was so off, was so far from where I was. So last year, just partial, giving partial, giving partial what God was giving me because I was giving God partial of me, not completely engaging like I should have. In these messages, we're talking about community, connection, relationships. I really desire to connect with a community of people that I can, you know, love on. They love on me. We can be family. We can pray for each other. We can stand in the gap for each other. We can be unified on one accord. And it's hard to find in a time that we're living in right now. It's really hard to find. Um, but I hope to find it. I hope to find it. And that's literally what I pray for and what I've been lacking. Um, so in a time of that waiting season, I know it's just not me going through this. You go visit churches, but you know that that's really not it. Um, in this time of this, in the time I'm in this waiting season, um, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. And since I've been back studying my Bible, typing these things up, and um, focusing on the mission of Christ and um, the cross and his covenant and his love and his grace and his peace and his, you know, um, kindness and things like that. It's encouraging me. It's strengthening me. Um, it's getting me back on track. Okay. But another thing I wanted to say is that I was talking about community. Um, being a law student, I um, you go in you go in as you start to study law. You go in and some people not really sure. I mean, you could think you sure, but you're really not sure. A lot of students really not sure what area of law that they want to specialize in. And I think the area of law is helping people, family law. That's been my greatest, that has been my greatest challenge. Okay. So I know and I love people. Um, I don't love how people want to treat you sometimes, but I love people. I love connecting with people. I love talking to people. Um, well, conversing with people, communicate with people, not just talking to them. Because when I'm talking to them, it's just me talking, but really communicating with people. And so, yeah, I think that's the area that I want to pursue, family law. Um, okay, let's go on another. Let's get back. So, four, lean on community. I was just talking about that. Ministry is not meant to be done alone. Leaning on the support and wisdom of your community can provide comfort and guidance during times of change. In Hebrew 10, it talks about it and it reminds us to encourage one another and not give up meeting together. Focus on the mission. Remember, and that's 5. Remembering the core mission of the ministry can help put change in perspective. Jesus' great commission in Matthew 28, actually Matthew 28, 19 to 20, reminds us to make disciples of all nations. Keeping the mission in mind can help navigate change with a sense of purpose. Fear of change is natural, but through faith, support, and a clear focus, I said it is in a clear focus on the mission, it can be managed and even embraced. So we have gone through fear of change. Um, I hope that this is helping someone because it's helping me personally. I mean, I put it together, but it's all this information is helping me. You know, we think that we got it, we know it. You know, we know what to do. Um, but sometimes when you sit down and you really put things in its proper perspective, it really shows you how much you don't know. I will leave y'all with this. Continue to be a student of the word. Okay, until next time.